The Sinister, Wax Nun, and 7 other spine-chilling tales of the haunted and cursed revealed. In the suburban sprawl of Maplewood, whispers of terror floated through the neatly trimmed hedges and freshly painted fences. One name quickened pulses: the Wax Nun. Once a vibrant figure in the old church, now silenced by a fire, she had transformed into a local legend, the embodiment of darkness lurking just beyond the light of ordinary lives. Eyes widening, every child who heard the tale knew of her uncanny ability to twist the normality of family life into a nightmare. Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, felt the chill of that legend creep into her every anxiety-laden day. Working tirelessly at the diner, her life was a wheel spinning faster each month, teetering on the edge of chaos. Jamie and Lily, her 2 young ones with wide smiles, kept her going, but could she protect them from both the reality of bills and the sinister folklore of their town? The din of the diner eased her mind during lunch shifts, but the shadow of the Wax Nun flickered in her thoughts when the lights flickered ominously in her own home. "Just faulty wiring," she muttered, but the words were hollow, groaning under the weight of dread. Each flicker felt finger-like, creeping closer, pulling back her veneer of comfort. Jamie's favorite toy vanished one evening without a trace, and the silence in her house intensified. But the real fear hit when Jamie didn't return from a playdate. The sun dipped below the horizon as panic unfurled within her, growing dark and heavy like the smoke that had swallowed the church. "Jamie!" she called, her heart thudding in an erratic tempo against her ribcage, but the darkness swallowed her words whole. Desperation clawed at her throat. The quiet streets of Maplewood felt claustrophobic. Why did it seem that the shadows danced mocking her? With each frenzied step, Sarah echoed her son's name. She spiraled deeper into the suffocating night. The whispers around her regarding the Wax Nun took new form, expanding like the shadows cast by the trees. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her instincts screamed as she implored neighbors for information, all eyes shifting, flitting away from her desperate gaze. The picture-perfect suburban life began to crumble around her. Secrets unfurled like tendrils reaching from beneath the surface. One by one, faces that once smiled back at her now appeared colder, harboring something dark. As the realities clicked into place, Sarah stood at the edge of that tarnished truth, brushing against the legends, the striking reality of the Wax Nun hovering. Every unturned stone could hold a missing child, each familiar face could harbor betrayal. And in the darkness, torn by fear and desperation, she felt the Wax Nun's presence wrapping around her, a suffocating warning that time was running out. Still, a haunting whisper from the shadows sent icy fingers racing down her spine. "Sarah, come find me." Panic surged. Who was watching her? What shadowy revelations lay ahead? With nights growing darker, and time slipping, she had to confront what Maplewood concealed. The witching hour was nearer than she thought. The clock continued counting down, not just seconds, but her very chance of reclaiming Jamie before the Wax Nun claimed what was forever lost. Heart pounding, Sarah stumbled back toward her house, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Shadows clung to her like a second skin, each rustling leaf echoing a sinister whisper, urging her to turn around, to run, but where to? The warmth of her home now felt like a prison. She dashed across the yard, her feet pounding on the dew-soaked grass. The front door creaked open, and she rushed inside, slamming it shut behind her. She locked the door for the 100th time that week, glancing nervously at the glass panes that seemed to stretch and warp, threatening to reveal horrors waiting just outside. "Lily!" she called, her voice cracking under the strain of her fear. They had to be together. They had to go find Jamie. As she sprinted toward her daughter's room, the shadows seemed to thicken, wrapping around her legs like a shroud. The air felt electric, as if it was alive and aware of her every move. Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by her toys, oblivious to the chaos that enveloped her mother. Her innocence was a fragile thing, a beacon against the darkness creeping at the edges. "Mommy, where's Jamie?" Lily asked, her wide eyes mirroring the fear in Sarah's heart.
He'll be back soon, sweetheart, Sarah lied, forcing a smile. She couldn't break Lily's spirit, not now.
We need to get ready to go look for him.
Okay. Can we take my doll?
Lily asked, grabbing the bright pink rag doll that was an extension of her youthful spirit. In that moment, Sarah felt a tether pull tight between them. If they could just stick together, maybe they could carve a path through this nightmare. Of course, she said, her voice steady. But as they prepared to leave, a noise shattered the resolve they were clinging to, a soft tapping, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from the back door.
The hair on the back of Sarah's neck prickled.
Stay here, Lily, she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. A cursory glance out the window showed the eerie glow of the moonlight reflecting off the tops of the nearby trees, casting ghostly silhouettes against the walls. With trepidation, she crept toward the back door. Each step felt like a choice between safety and the unknown, razor-thin and razor-sharp. As she reached for the handle, another tap echoed through the house, louder this time, like a bell pealing in the night. Fear gripped her. The tapping wasn't random, it felt intentional, almost mocking. I'm coming, Jamie, she whispered, her resolve hardening as she stood before the door. With trembling hands, Sarah pulled the door open. What she was greeted with sent ice through her veins. There stood the Wax Nun, or what resembled her, a figure cloaked in shadows, waxen skin glinting unnaturally in the pale light. The features were twisted, mouth stretched into a gaping maw that promised darkness.
Mom!
Lily screamed from the back. The Wax Nun turned, eyes glimmering like candles snuffed out, and for a moment, it felt like the world had stilled. Come find me, it breathed, the words dripping like honeyed poison, echoing Jamie's own haunting call from the shadows. In that instant, reality blurred as panic surged through every fiber of Sarah's being. She had to choose, face the nightmare or flee with Lily into the dark, uncertain woods behind them. With chaos swirling around her, Sarah made her decision. As she grabbed Lily with one hand, she drew back from the door with the other, but what awaited her on the other side was only the beginning.
Where is Jamie?
She cried out, her heart racing as the Wax Nun stepped forward, lips curling into a sinister smile, but the figure inched closer, and Sarah's thoughts raced to what might happen if they turned her back. What would she discover if she faced this terror head-on? In a heartbeat, the darkness erupted. As the Wax Nun crept into their sanctuary, shadows twined around them, and Sarah realized she was about to uncover truths that could shatter everything she held dear. But would the unveiling save Jamie or cost them all? The Wax Nun loomed, its gaze heavy and haunting. Sarah felt her breath hitch in her throat, the air around them thickening, suffocating. Panic seized her heart. She had to escape, but where? The walls shrank, the corners closing in, as if the house itself had conspired against them.
Mommy!
Lily's cry shattered the tension, her small body clinging to Sarah's leg, her doll forgotten in the chaos. The Wax Nun's grin widened, revealing rows of waxy teeth that seemed to glisten in delight. Its voice slithered through the air, sinuous and leering.
He is closer than you think, dear Sarah, not now.
Sarah shouted, pulling Lily tightly against her as she stepped backward, trying to shield her from the impending horror. But the figure's eyes bore into her, cold and unyielding. They felt like needles, pricking at her sanity.
Mommy, it's coming.
Lily whimpered, terror spilling from her like a broken dam. Each word, each fleeting instant stretched like an elastic band, pulling at the edges of reality. The Wax Nun took another step forward, the shadows swirling eagerly around its feet, licking at the floorboards as if seeking an invitation to feast. Where there is wax, there is fire, it murmured, and sudden memories surged in Sarah's mind, fire that consumed everything, fire that had taken Jamie. The thought sent shivers down her spine.
We need to go.
She yelled, tugging Lily along, but fleeing felt like an invitation for the shadows to snare them. The house groaned with malice, as if it sensed her intent, and the door behind them creaked ominously.
Would it swing shut? Would it trap them inside? Mommy, I want to go home.
Lily sobbed, her small hands gripping Sarah's tighter, nails digging into her skin. Just a minute, honey, but she couldn't find the words. The Wax Nun's silhouette flickered like a candle flame, wavering and shifting. It seemed a hunger for despair, feeding off their fear.
Come find me, it lured again, an insidious promise that echoed Jamie's name.
A voice within Sarah screamed, this can't be happening.
Not again. She needed to think, needed to control the chaos, but terror gnawed at her resolve. The shadows creeping along the walls whispered secrets only they knew, secrets that felt loaded with betrayal. "Turn off the lights," the figure cooed, mockingly. That'll be fun. Suddenly, Sarah's mind snapped to a memory, the glow from Lily's nightlight, the small barrier against the darkness they feared. "We have to get to the hallway," she said urgently, hoping to reach the stairs to the safety of their rooms. "Follow me, quick." As they darted into the darkened corridor, barely illuminated by scattered beams, the shadows twisted, and the Wax Nun's laughter filled the space, a chilling serenade that echoed off the walls. "No more running away," it sang, voice layered with glee. "The game has just begun." Bolting past the bathroom, Sarah could hear the floor creaking behind them. The shadows pressed in tighter, claws of darkness reaching from the corners, pooling like ink, threatening to pull them back into the waiting arms of madness. "Mommy! Mommy!" Lily cried, fear lacing every syllable. They reached the stairs, and as they raced up, Sarah's heart felt like a drum, throbbing in time with their desperation. But at the landing, dread gripped her. Jamie's door stood ajar, inviting yet forbidding. What if he is in there? Lily whispered, a trembling echo of Sarah's own fear. Or what if he isn't? Sarah's mind spun. She couldn't risk it. But the Wax Nun materialized at the foot of the stairs, its waxy fingers stretching upward, beckoning them with a slow, train-wreck inevitability. Sarah gritted her teeth. They had to keep moving, but the walls began to breathe, closing in like a giant's grip surrounding them. "We have to go. We have to." And then it began. The lights flickered violently, plunging them into a darkness that felt tangible, like a heavy blanket smothering their last breath of hope. "Mom!" The chilling laughter of the Wax Nun bounced off the walls, cutting through her defenses. "You can't hide." Forcing dignity into her fear, Sarah turned and charged down the hallway, determined to find a way out before it consumed them both. Each step felt weighted with dread, but she had to believe there was hope in the heart of chaos. But as the Wax Nun's whispers turned to screams, tearing through the darkness with an urgency that clawed at her sanity, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were running straight into a trap. "Mommy, where are we going?" Lily's voice broke through the mounting terror. Then, just ahead, a glint of light flickered against the walls. An exit? Or a deeper entry into horror? The choice loomed like an oncoming storm. Which path would they take, and what awaited them at the end? With a surge of adrenaline, she made her choice, not knowing if it would lead to salvation or their doom. The light beckoned, slashing through the murky atmosphere like a blade. Sarah's heart pumped wildly as she urged Lily to follow her toward the faint glow. But every step felt like wading through thick mud. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her eyes wide and brimming with tears. "I know, baby, I know," Sarah whispered back, forcing a brave face even as dread coiled around her gut. She couldn't let the Wax Nun catch them. They had to reach that light, that promise of safety, and fast. As they approached, the light intensified, warming the cool air around them, but it refracted oddly, creating shadows that danced off the walls. Sarah squinted, trying to make sense of the unnatural play of light and darkness, praying it wasn't a trick of the malevolent house. The echo of the Wax Nun's laughter still ricocheted in her head. It had turned into something more primal, almost animalistic, and as they neared the doorway, Sarah saw, or thought she saw, something shift within the illuminated room. She paused, half of her body over the threshold, her breath caught in her throat as she strained to discern the figure cloaked in shadow. "Mommy!" Lily's voice broke her trance, and she felt the tug of Lily's small hand. With a determined breath, Sarah took one step inside, the light flooding over them like sunlight breaking through a storm. Inside the room, chaos reigned. Old toys, once vibrant, lay scattered across the floor, each one encased in a thin layer of dust. The air was thick with a sharp, acrid scent of decay. At the far end, a porcelain doll sat atop an old dresser, its painted eyes eerily watching their every move as if judging the trespassers. "What is that?" Lily trembled, barely able to keep her voice steady. "I don't know," Sarah murmured, compelled to step further in. Something felt wrong, like they were being watched by the very walls. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut with a deafening bang, sending Sarah's heart into a thrumming panic. The eerie laughter rang again, echoing in the confined space.
Sarah spun to face the now sealed exit, only to hear a sinister whisper clawing into her ears. "Welcome to my sanctuary." Her heart galloped wildly.
There was nowhere to go.
"Lily, stay close," she ordered, every instinct screaming.
But Lily's gaze was drawn toward the doll, a magnet of dread. The way its eyes seemed to glimmer with a knowing was unsettling. "Mommy, it wants to play, don't look at it," Sarah urged, pulling Lily back. But before she could gather her thoughts, the air shifted, thickening around them as the shadows fused into shapes, figures emerging, trapped in the confines of the room. Ghostly children with hollow eyes and twisted faces materialized in the corners, trapped in their own play. "Help us," one of them whispered, extending a trembling hand. Lily took a step forward, curious. "Mommy, they don't," Sarah shouted, grabbing her wrist.
The shadows writhed, angry faces coiling around them, whispering secrets of despair that made Sarah's skin crawl.
"Let them go,"
she yelled, feeling the weight of their despair pressing down. The doll began to move, jerking as if animated by an unseen force.
Shadows loomed, closing in around the edges of their vision, encroaching on their bodies.
The Wax Nun's laughter erupted again, filling the room with a sickly warmth. "Let us play a game." Panic surged in Sarah, clawing at her sanity.
"What do we do?"
As if in response, the whispering grew louder, the spectral children joining in chant, join us, her stomach nodded. "They couldn't stay here."
She glanced back at the doll.
"You had to break the cycle, destroy it or leave."
"We need to leave now,"
she shouted as she yanked on Lily's arm, dragging her to the only window, the last defense against the malevolence surrounding them. Footsteps echoed from behind, drawing nearer, the shadows empowered by their fear.
"Mommy, the doll," Lily wailed, pointing. But in that fleeting moment, something in Sarah's mind clicked. "No more playing,"
she screamed, pushing against the wave of terror, charging toward the doll, determination boiling within her.
Just as she reached for it, the figure in the dark coalesced, shifting. Was it the nun, or something worse?
A scream reverberated through the room as Sarah felt a cold hand grab her shoulder.
"Stop!" The walls quaked, shadows coiling tighter. In the frantic chaos, she had one final chance to reclaim their fate, but would she take it? And somewhere amidst the eerie dark, the whispered question lingered, "What's the price of freedom?" Sarah's fingers brushed against the cold porcelain of the doll.
It felt unnaturally smooth, as though it had been thoroughly polished by unseen hands. But when she grasped it, a surge of energy ran through her, paralyzing her for a heartbeat. The whispers morphed into screams, children's screams that tore into Sarah's soul. She had to break free.
"No!" she shouted. "Let us go!"
But her voice was drowned in the rising howl. Shadows twisted around her, clinging, pulling her back, trying to steal Lily away.
The little girl's eyes widened with horror. "Mommy! Please!" Sarah's grip tightened. The doll seemed to pulse with malevolence, like a living thing. The voices flared around them.
"Help us," they were pleading, desperate echoes of lost hope. A spectral child pressed against the wall, distorted and weeping.
"Join us." "No."
The word came out as a guttural cry.
Sarah wasn't here to join. She was here to escape. With newfound resolve, she yanked the doll from its dusty perch.
Instantly, the shadows recoiled, screaming in fury.
The laughter of the Wax Nun swirled through the air, thickening like fog. "You can't leave."
Her voice dripped with malice. Lily whimpered, heart racing. Sarah instinctively stepped in front of her, fierce protectiveness igniting like a blaze.
"We are leaving."
She grasped the doll tightly, feeling a rush of ancient anger, a force that fought against her will, as if the doll was alive with wills of its own.
"Break it!"
Lily shouted suddenly, her voice fierce despite her fear.
It flashed in Sarah's mind. The price of freedom: break the cycle. "No more playing,"
Sarah screamed, raising the doll high, her eyes blazing with determination. The shadows lunged at them, swirling in a frantic assault, but she brought the doll crashing down against the floor. The shattering sound reverberated, echoing like thunder, a sharp crack of despair.
For a moment, silence enveloped the room, a deafening blankness. Shadows froze, some dissipating like smoke.
The porcelain shattered in a myriad of directions, releasing a blinding light that engulfed everything around her, but within that light, unlike the soft embrace of the previous glow, was a chaotic stampede of tragic echoes, their faces contorting in agony.
No!
They howled, a cacophony of lost souls spiraling out of the fragments.
The doll's eyes blinked, intensifying the light until Sarah felt like she was being drawn into a vortex, spinning, weightless in chaos, with Daisy still holding her hand.
Then, with a sickening lurch, they were thrown backward into the darkness. Sarah hit the floor hard, breathless and gasping, Lily still clutched tightly in her arms.
Did it work?
Lily trembled, her tiny body shaking. The room was eerily still. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, but it felt wrong, like the calm before the storm. Sarah pushed herself off the floor, scanning the room. Toy remnants and glass shards littered the surface, but no sign of the doll.
"Mommy, what did we do?"
"I don't know," she murmured in terror, searching for an exit.
But something shifted.
A figure emerged from the shadows at the room's edge, tall and cloaked, the unmistakable silhouette of the Wax Nun. Dread washed over her again, the mere presence ignited every instinct to flee.
"Did you think it would be that easy?"
The nun's voice slithered through the air, dripping with venom.
Sarah's heart raced. "Run, Lily!"
They scrambled to their feet, darting for the nearest corner, but as they moved, shadows stretched out, like talons reaching for them.
Sarah looked back, desperation overtaking her every thought.
Just before she reached the doorway, the nun stepped forward, and the shadows shifted, swirling ominously.
"Do you think you can escape your fate?"
The oppressive darkness swelled around them, and Sarah felt her strength waning.
"Mommy!" Lily cried, wide-eyed as she stumbled back into Sarah's arms. "We will not stay." Sarah shouted defiantly, as the light dimmed again and a terrifying choice loomed before them. "Will you stay and face the darkness?"
The nun beckoned, her laughter echoing again, sinister and eternal.
"What now?"
Sarah muttered, as the nun's face twisted in recognition. And in that moment of horror, something flickered in the shadows, a glint of desperation and hope. But which path led to true freedom? The darkness surged, wrapping around Sarah and Lily like a living shroud. The Wax Nun's mockery echoed in their ears, but her presence felt weighty and unavoidable force. Sarah's heartbeat thundered, mixing with the whispers that clawed at her mind, drowning every rational thought.
"Mommy, I'm scared."
Lily whimpered, pressing against her, the warmth of her daughter's body grounding Sarah amid the rising tide of despair.
"We have to get out." Sarah gasped, her breath coming in ragged bursts.
She squinted into the dark, trying to spot an escape, but each path melted into a labyrinth of shadows, as if the room itself was rearranging. The air became thick, almost suffocating, filled with the scent of decay and bitterness.
"Mommy!"
Lily tugged at her sleeve, her little fingers trembling.
"Look!"
Sarah followed her gaze. A faint glow emerged from the corner, barely visible yet compelling. The shadows writhed around it, as if trying to snuff it out.
"Stay close," Sarah whispered, clutching Lily's hand tightly.
They edged towards the light, every step feeling laden with dread. The Wax Nun leaned into the shadows like a vulture, her form shifting, a grotesque tableau of looming death.
"You dare approach the light?" she hissed. "You will find only pain and sorrow."
The light flickered, shimmered, casting airy reflections that danced on the walls.
It beckoned them, whispering promises of safety.
But as they moved closer, the shadows shifted violently, swirling like a storm.
"Run!"
Sarah shouted, instincts kicking in as she pulled Lily toward the radiance. The shadows lunged again, coiling around their ankles, a desperate attempt to drag them back into the void. They broke free, collapsing onto the hard floor near the glow. Sarah shielded Lily with her body, heart racing. The light brightened with their proximity, revealing a spectral figure, a girl, translucent, ethereal, her eyes pleading. "Help us, Lily, listen to me," Sarah said, pulling her daughter closer, trembling at the sight before them.
"We don't have much time.
We have to trust this girl, it might be our only chance." Lily nodded silently, her eyes wide with fear, refusing to look away from the ghostly child.
"What do we do?"
"Ask her." Taking a deep breath, Sarah leaned closer to the spectral girl.
Please, how can we escape? The spirit gestured toward a doorway shrouded in light behind her. Follow before she comes, she whispered, every word heavy with urgency. But the shadows surged once more, fierce and hungry. Screams filled the air, echoing the cries of countless lost souls. The nun's laughter faded into a low growl. You cannot leave. You are mine. No. Sarah cried out, despair washing over her, but adrenaline kicked in. Ignoring the dawning dread within her, she pulled Lily toward the specter and made for the doorway. They ran, the world blurring around them. The spectral girl's eyes sparked. Hurry! As they rushed, a cold wind swept through the corridor, freezing them in their tracks. The shadows twisted into human-like forms, reaching out, their mouths opening in silent screams. The nun's silhouette loomed behind them, her fingers outstretched, eyes glowing with malicious delight. Your fate is sealed. But just as the tendrils of darkness brushed against Sarah, a blinding flash erupted from the doorway. The spirit cried, trust in the light. With a final push, Sarah grasped Lily's hand tighter and leaped toward it. They were engulfed, the shadow shrieking as she felt a crushing weight lift. A rush of cool air surged around them, the light enveloping them, blinding and pure, then silence. They landed, breathless, sprawled on cool grass. An ominous fog shrouded the landscape, heavy with lingering shadows. The air tasted different, bracing yet familiar, but they were outside. A dilapidated house loomed before them, a replica of the nightmare they had escaped. Where are we? Lily quaked, staring up at the familiar horror. Sarah's stomach twisted. But, it can't be. Before she could think, the house creaked, dark windows glinting ominously like narrowed eyes. A figure shifted behind the glass, a figure they both recognized. Mommy? Is that her? Lily whimpered, pointing there, framed in the dim light, the unmistakable form of the Wax Nun watched them. Welcome back, her voice dripped with hunger, and with it came the promise of terror anew. What if the escape had only begun a new cycle of horror? How much further would they have to run? The moment felt like an eternity as Sarah's heart pounded like a distant drum, reverberating through the open air. She could hardly breathe, the sight of the Wax Nun igniting a primal instinct to flee. Run, she screamed, gripping Lily's hand with a strength born from raw panic. They turned to flee, but the fog closed in tightly, drawing them back with its cold, clammy fingers. Each step felt heavy, like wading through molasses on a ghostly battlefield. Panic surged as the house groaned, its walls seeming to animate, closing in, suffocating them with memories of dread and sorrow. Where are we going, Mommy? Lily's voice quivered, laced with fear. Anywhere but here. Sarah replied, barely able to form words. She fought the urge to look back, knowing that the nun was watching, waiting hungry. As they stumbled away from the house, they found themselves on an overgrown path leading deeper into the woods. The trees loomed like malevolent giants, their branches clawing at the darkening sky, whispering secrets only they could understand. Shadows danced just beyond their sight, evoking flickers of movement that made Sarah's skin crawl. Do you think she can follow us? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She has to be trapped in that house, Sarah reassured, though inside she was far from confident. Yet, an instinct told her that the nun's reach extended far beyond what was visible. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A low growl resonated in the air, vibrating deep within Sarah's bones. What was that? Lily gasped, pausing to grip her mother's hand tighter. I don't know, but we need to keep moving, Sarah urged, her pulse racing. They hurried down the path, the forest growing denser and darker as if night had swallowed them whole. Then, unexpectedly, they stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cemetery, its twisted iron gates ajar. Tombstones lined the path, some toppled over, while cracked slabs revealed decaying wood beneath. Mommy, look. Lily pointed to a gravestone, its surface worn, yet a chilling name emerged in ghostly letters, Maria. Maria? Sarah repeated, a wave of dread washing over her. The name felt familiar, surfacing from a shadowy corner of her memory. Before she could ponder longer, a swirling mist erupted from the ground, creeping toward them, and Sarah's heart dropped. Run! She hollered again, dragging Lily through the cemetery. They darted between grave markers,
the ground seeming to pulse beneath their feet. But the mist coalesced into shapes, ghostly figures rising from their eternal rest, eyes hollow yet pleading, hands reaching out as if to grasp at the living. "Help us!" came a voice that echoed through the air, chilling Sarah to the bone. The ghosts looked like children lost, frightened, just like Lily. "Don't look!" Sarah shouted, forcing her daughter to keep her gaze forward. The spectral figures swirled, intertwining with the mist, crying out in sorrow as they pointed back toward the house. "Mommy, they want us to help them," Lily sobbed, her voice breaking the tense silence. "No, we can't," Sarah insisted, battling her own fear and the tug of the souls burdened with despair. Something dark whispered at the edge of her awareness, an echo of the Wax Nun's laughter, promising vengeance, and a reminder of the girl intertwining with the house. "Please, Mommy." The desperation in Lily's tone pierced through each layer of dread. There was something wrong, something terrible afoot here, but every instinct screamed at Sarah to press on, to escape the encroaching darkness. As they reached the far end, the mist billowed violently, swirling like a storm, and a horrid screech rang through the air. A shape emerged, twisting and writhing, and Sarah felt a blast of icy air grip her as she turned around. "Your time is not done, it has just begun," the voice slithered through the trees, mingling with the wind. With a heavy heart fueled by survival, Sarah tightened her grip on Lily's hand. "We have to keep going, no matter what." But a thought echoed back, a singular, chilling reminder: had they stepped from one nightmare only to dive into another? The realization weighed heavily as they dashed deeper into the woods, each step feeling like the closing of a trap. In the distance, laughter twisted into the night. What awaited them, hidden within the shadows and fog? What truth lay waiting in the dark corners of their nightmarish journey? The branches snapped underfoot, echoing through the silence as Sarah and Lily plunged deeper into the woods. The air turned frigid, biting at their skin, and each breath felt like a deep gasp of ice. The laughter from behind hung in the thick fog, wrapping around them like a shroud. It was a sound that ricocheted in Sarah's mind, tugging at her sanity. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily said, her voice trembling. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand again, drawing strength from the warmth of her small palm. "We just need to keep going," she whispered, but uncertainty dripped from her words like poison. The trees were becoming denser, the shadows warped into grotesque shapes. Eyes lurked within the trunks, watching as if the forest itself were alive. The darkness felt heavy, pressing in on them. And yet, the disturbing presence from the house still taunted them. "Look!" Lily pointed to an ancient gnarled tree, its bark twisted into a grimace. In the hollow of the trunk lay a small, wooden box. Chilled by fear, Sarah hesitated. "Maybe it's a clue," Lily urged, a glimmer of hope lighting her eyes. "No. We don't stop. We can't," Sarah snapped, instinctively pulling her daughter away. But the moment lingered, the box an undeniable lure. Something in it felt dangerously important. The whispers in the wind seemed to advise caution but also beckoned them closer. "Just a quick look," Lily persisted, her wide eyes pleading. With a sigh weighted by despair, Sarah relented. "One look," she said, stepping forward, grasping the box. It felt warm in her hands, an unsettling contrast to the cold that surrounded them. As she opened it, a swirl of dark smoke erupted from inside, and cold tendrils grabbed at her ankles, dragging her down. She stumbled backward. "What the hell?" The air shimmered, revealing a shadowy figure, an apparition dressed in tattered remnants of an old dress. The face was a mask of sorrow, shifting and molding like wax. "Help it," whispered, the word curling around Sarah, feeding into her fear. Lily screamed, and before Sarah could react, the apparition lunged toward her daughter, a mouth wide open, revealing nothing but void. "Run, Lily!" Sarah shouted, her voice raw. Desperately, she grabbed Lily and spun, sprinting back down the trail just as vines shot from the ground, twisting like snakes, trying to entangle them. The witching laughter came again, louder, more mad. "You cannot escape!" Branches lashed against her face as they fled, tearing at her skin. The cemetery loomed ahead, the ghostly figures now a cyclone of despair swirling around the stones. Faces turned toward them, eyes hollow but desperate. "Help us!" they cried again, but this time, a new voice emerged from the fray, familiar and sinister.
"Mommy, please."
It encompassed Lily's plea.
Sarah's heart fell into her stomach. "No. Stay with me,"
she screamed, dragging Lily forward, though the pull of the spirits threatened to tear them apart. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows, a second nun, identical to the first, but with her face obscured beneath a tattered veil that flowed like dark water. With each step, Sarah felt the freezing touch of dread creep closer, each breath more labored. "Join us," the nun hissed, extending a skeletal finger toward Lily. A surge of energy lit up inside Sarah. She couldn't lose her daughter.
"You'll never take her. We fought to get here, and we're not going back."
Lily, shaken but resolute, echoed her mother, "We say no." In that moment, the unseen force of the woods shimmered, the balance shifting. The spirits halted, their cries drowned in the fierce determination of a mother's love, but the moment of clarity slipped away, darkness rushing back in, blinding them in a tide of anguish and pressing dread. Shadows loomed larger as the laughter swelled to a maniacal chorus, then fell silent.
"Mommy, what is happening?"
Lily's voice sliced through the tension, pulling Sarah's focus with fierce urgency. That laughter, it wasn't just behind them anymore. It was surrounding them, closing in fast. Lost in the chaos, Sarah realized they hadn't just entered another
nightmare.
They had awakened something dark, ancient, and deadly. As the darkness thickened and shaped into horrifying forms, one haunting truth loomed like a shadow: there was nowhere left to hide.
"What do we do?"
Lily cried out, panic rising again, but before Sarah could answer, the ground began to tremble once more. In that hollow moment, a familiar eerie voice echoed, chilling as winter's breath.
"Your past has come home." What would it mean for Sarah and Lily? Would they finally confront their fears or become prisoners of the dark?
The trembling intensified beneath their feet, a rhythmic pulse that synchronized with their racing hearts. Shadows twisted around them, alive with intent, each shape an echo of their fears. Dark laughter erupted from the trees, filling the air like a toxic mist, heavy and choking.
"Mommy!"
Lily's plea pierced through the chaos. Sarah turned to see a pair of sunken eyes staring back at them from the depths of the gloom, their hollow sockets brimming with malevolence.
"We have to go,"
Sarah shouted, pulling Lily close, panic clawing at her throat. The ground beneath them shook violently, pulling at their legs, as if trying to swallow them whole. The air thickened so that even the simplest breath felt like a labor. Then, in a palpable silence that followed an explosion of sound, something shifted. The shadows receded slightly, revealing a narrow path lined with stones barely visible in the swirling fog. Instinct pushed Sarah forward, but her gut twisted with dread. Each step felt like a descent into madness, into an abyss that threatened to consume them.
"Where are we?"
Lily whispered, her voice small, almost lost.
Sarah's heart plummeted. She didn't have an answer.
The trees formed a jagged tunnel, swallowing the light, as if they had entered a veiled chasm of despair. Suddenly, the ground rumbled again, and Sarah glanced back. The figure of the nun closed in, her features obscured by layering darkness. Behind her, other shadowy forms emerged, gliding silently like smoke.
They drifted between the trees, reaching toward them, mouths agape but uttering no sound. A terrifying army of the lost.
"Run, Lily!
Now!" The urgency in Sarah's tone spurred her daughter into action.
They broke into a frantic sprint, feet pounding against the uneven earth, breath coming in ragged gasps. Sarah's grip on Lily tightened, the warmth of her small hand a flicker of hope amidst the engulfing terror. Branches whipped at their faces. Sarah felt stinging cuts as they tore through her skin.
No time to worry about the pain.
The figures behind them howled now, shrieking their anguish, and Sarah's dread deepened. Some forced their past, perhaps wanted to drag them back to that haunting place, to take them down into the grotesque remnants of what had once been. "We're almost there," she shouted, although she had no idea what there meant. Ahead, a clearing loomed, veiled in thick mist and glimmering with an ethereal light that promised safety. Hope surged through Sarah's veins along with a tinge of disbelief, but just as they neared, the laughter erupted again, high and manic, echoing off the trees. The ground beneath her feet buckled, turning into a gaping maw as it split open.
"No!" Sarah screamed.
She hurled herself forward, dragging Lily behind her, just as they neared the edge. Dread clawed at her heart as she felt the cool air rush into the abyss, a haunting invitation to join the damned. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the nun's outstretched hand reach for them, the skeletal finger beckoning as other figures lurked behind, eyes glowing in the night like hungry beasts. Their whispers slithered through the air, wrapping around her throat like a noose. "Join us," they hissed, echoing from the depths of darkness, but Sarah's resolve burned. "Not today," she shouted, even as fear threatened to drown her. They took a final leap into the murky clearing, bursting into an open glade filled with forgotten stones, remnants of a long-lost life. There, in the center, was a massive stone well, its surface slick and dark, beckoning them closer. "What is that?" Lily whispered, eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. "I don't know," Sarah replied, dread pooling in her stomach. "But it could be the answer or a way out." As the chilling laughter heightened, echoing all around them, Sarah faced her daughter, desperation gnawing at her throat. "We have to find out. We have to know what it wants." And before she could take another breath, the darkness coalesced behind them, fierce and insistent. "Jump!" Sarah cried, their fates interwoven, poised at the brink of light and shadow, as the sinister laughter thundered one last time, each echo a countdown to an unknown terror. What awaited them in the depths of the well? Would they uncover the answers hidden within, or would they sink into the void, forever lost to the whispers of the damned? The ground trembled as the darkness loomed around them, whispering promises of despair and chaos. Sarah gripped Lily's hand tighter, their fingers intertwined like a lifeline. The earth felt alive beneath their feet, as if it could consume them at any moment. "What do we do, Mommy?" Lily's small voice trembled, sounding so fragile amidst the roar of the shadows. I don't know, but we're going to find a way out." The weight of failure pressed down on Sarah's chest, making it hard to breathe. She glanced back at the gaping well, its depths suggesting secrets best left buried. The shadows swirled and danced menacingly, a chaotic storm of grief and rage emanating from an unseen source. In the dim light of the glade, Sarah noticed something glimmering within the well, a soft, pulsing light that cut through the darkness like a beacon. "Look, Lily!" she gasped. "There's something down there." "But what if it's a trap?" Lily asked, eyes wide and fearful. "We'll never know if we don't try." Sarah's determination surged. They needed hope, and the light felt like their only chance. Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah turned towards the well and took a deep breath. She had to be strong for Lily. "On 3, we jump. Just focus on me. Ready?" Lily nodded, her hand still holding tightly to her mother's. 1, 2, 3. With a shared scream that echoed in the silence, they leaped into the unknown. They fell into darkness for what felt like an eternity, the air whooshing past them, a cacophony of sounds enveloping them. Just as dread threatened to engulf her, they splashed down into a cold pool, sending ripples across the surface. The light from above vanished, leaving them submerged in shadows. Gasping for air, Sarah flailed, reaching for Lily. "I'm here, Mommy," came her daughter's reassuring voice, her fingers gripping Sarah's arm. The water felt different, almost alive, swirling around them. Panic surged anew as they struggled to rise, but the pull of the current and the shadows wrapped around them like chains. "Fight it, Lily! Swim!" With every ounce of strength, they pushed upwards, the surface inching closer as they kicked hard. At last, they broke through, scraping their heads against the cold stone rim of a submerged cave. "Mommy!" Lily gasped, grasping Sarah's shirt as they both climbed out onto solid ground, dripping and shivering. The cave was illuminated with an ethereal glow. Walls adorned with shimmering crystals reflected splintered light everywhere, creating a beautiful, haunting illusion. Shadows darted across the stone surface, intertwining with the brilliance, leaving a trail of eerie whispers. "Where are we?" Lily asked, peering around. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving." Sarah's voice was firm despite the trembling fear within her. She took a step forward, the crunch of gravel beneath her feet breaking the eerie silence. As they walked deeper, the whispers grew clearer, echoing against the cavern walls. Escape, find truth. Each word wrapped around Sarah's heart, urging her to press on. They had come too far to falter now. A faint breeze flowed through the cave, warm and inviting yet laced with a sinister undercurrent. They soon reached a chamber brimming with visions that unfolded before their eyes, flashes of children playing in fields, laughter ringing, and then screams of despair, shadows consuming them.
"Mommy, look!" Lily cried, pointing. "It's them! The kids from the cemetery!"
Sarah swallowed her fear, clenching her fists as she watched the scenes unfold. She stepped forward, feeling the anger build within her.
"Let them go!"
she shouted, voice echoing against the walls, defiance blazing through her. The shimmering light flickered as the other figures turned toward her, eyes filled with understanding, sorrow, and loss, a reflection of everything Sarah feared losing.
"Help us," they pleaded, voices now a soft blend of grief and hope. "Help means letting go," Sarah cried.
The shadows writhed, the wax nun's haunting laughter enveloped the chamber, merging with the cries of the lost.
"This has to end."
Lily tugged at her mother's arm, eyes sparkling with courage.
"Together?" Feeling empowered, Sarah nodded. "Always."
With that, they advanced into the chamber's center where a massive stone altar stood, draped in crystal light, and pulsing with energy.
It felt like a heart beating, alive and desperate. "Together now!"
Sarah shouted, and they thrust their hands towards the altar, channeling their combined will into the bright light.
The shadows recoiled, shrieking as the stone began to crack and glow fiercely, illuminating the darkness. "Release them!"
they shouted together, pouring everything they had into the light. In an exquisite brilliance, the chamber erupted with a burst of energy, shadows broke apart like glass shattering, sending echoes of the anguished cries reverberating throughout the cave.
The light consumed the darkness, illuminating forgotten faces, releasing the lost. "Freedom!"
Sarah cried, overwhelmed by the pure radiance. The children smiled as they drifted into the light, their spirits finally at peace. As the last of the shadows dissipated, Sarah felt the oppressive weight lift from her chest.
The wax nun's laughter faded into silence. "I think we did it," Lily exclaimed, beaming with pure joy. "Yeah, we did." Sarah could hardly believe it.
They had escaped the cycle of horror. The cavern began to shake, the walls shimmering before gradually dissolving into a warm, radiant light.
"Mommy! Look!"
Lily pointed as the world around them transformed, merging with the beauty of a sunlit day, fresh air filling their lungs. They stood once again on solid ground, this time in a park, a vibrant field stretching before them filled with laughter, families playing, and the sun shining in a clear blue sky.
Did we really escape? Sarah pondered, glancing down at her daughter. "I think so. Look, Mommy, there is no more darkness." Lily's laughter rang sweeter than anything Sarah had ever heard.
And in that moment, with the warmth of the sun embracing them, they knew that the terror of the wax nun and the lost souls had finally been left behind. They were free. With tears of relief streaming down her cheeks, Sarah pulled her daughter tight in her arms, feeling joy swell like a tide while the echoes of laughter danced around them. "Let us go home," Sarah whispered, knowing their journey had led them to a new beginning. As they walked hand in hand through the park, a renewed sense of hope glimmered within them, the memories of their past lingering but slowly fading into the light of a brand new day.
Now, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finale. Your support fuels our journey.